In the deep recesses of one's mind, there is a voice, a guiding light through the darkness, a connection to the other side.
You're ready to wake up, you're going to wake up. And if you're not ready, you're going to stay pretending that you're just a poor little me.
Pathway to spiritual that echoes with enlightenment. The voice of spirit.
The voice of spirit.
You are a function of this total galaxy, bounded by the Milky Way, and that furthermore, this galaxy is a function of all other galaxies.
Your journey starts here and now. With your host and connection to spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Hi, very, very warm welcome. And if you're in England, it's very warm, which is quite unusual, but it's lovely. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you happen to be in the world. Got a lovely, lovely gentleman on the show today, Mr. Chris Jacobs. He's a clairvoyant medium, and we'll be talking to him about his life, his experiences, some of the things that he's doing, and of course some live readings if you want to call in. And you can get us on 702-425-9230, and you can of course get us on Skype at Core Radio. You can join us in the chat room, and you can join us on Facebook and Twitter, etc. So, as far as Chris can remember, he's always been aware of spirit. And in early spirit, though, he didn't recognise spirit as such. They were just close friends, but to others, imaginary friends. And he had quite a difficult childhood. And if it hadn't been for spirit, it would probably have not been here, or life would have been very different. And I think that's something that people can relate to. You know, mediums tend to have rather odd experiences, and I think with children having imaginary friends, that is something we can all relate to. At the age of 15, he found his way to Blackpool Spiritualist Church and was told about his future as a medium and about the spirit world. And at the age of 16, started sitting in a circle where he's learned the principles of mediumship and regularly worked in a trance state. There's a famous church in England called St. Anne's Spiritualist Church, and he became a member at 18, he became a committee member at the age of 18, and was fundamental in setting up the now famous annual spiritual development workshops and meetings held at Glendower and later at Lindham Hotel in St. Anne's. Those are still going on today. He's met quite a few well-known mediums, Gordon Higginson, Glenn Edwards, and many more of that era. It was Glenn Edwards that took him under his wing, was instrumental in his development, and under the direction of Gordon, he also continued his training at Arthur Findlay College with Mavis Patilla, whom again is another very well known medium. He started holding services at spiritualist churches at the age of 24, as well as giving private readings. And for the last 15 years has continued his work, as well as teaching workshops and holding circles, and has become a full-time working medium in the last 3.5 years. So that's a very short introduction to Chris. So hi, Chris, how are you?
Hi, Leo. I'm fine, thank you very much.
That's good. I think in common with lots of people, lots of mediums, you know, there's this very early connection with spirit, isn't there? And I can tell from that small part of the introduction that as life becomes difficult, we do one of two things. We either withdraw into ourselves or we withdraw into spirit. And it seems to me that you did a little bit of both, and it's quite intriguing that you say you may not be here. So I know life has been difficult for you from that point. Would you like to talk a little bit about that and how you survived that?
Yeah, sure. By no means my life's not unique. I mean, there are others who are far worse than I have been. But yes, I can understand why you say, yes, it was a little bit of both. I was a very shy, very introvert child. You know, I was abused physically, mentally, everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, it detracts a certain something, especially when you're a child and you don't know any better. And you kind of accept that this is your life and it's your fault and this is the way it goes, basically.
Yeah, it's quite a harsh way to learn life, isn't it? And as you say, without a lot of life experience at that point, we kind of say that this is the way that it is. So, how was your first contact with spirit? You know, how did you find that? How was you approached?
Well, I always talk to spirit as my God, basically. I was always drawn. I always had a Bible, but I never looked in it, and it was never felt compelled to look in it. You know, when we started school of that age, you were given a little New Testament Bible, weren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and that was my constant companion. Although I would flick in and in and out of it, but I never really took in the concept of it all. I never believed in it in that way, but I believed in the God, and I believed that in some way I was protected. And my first, the real one that stands out in my mind was I got to the age of 12 years. And I think it was the night before my 13th birthday.
Yeah.
I opened the window, everybody else was in bed, and I opened the window, and up north then it was freezing, but it didn't matter. and it was a lovely starry night. And I can remember talking to God, as it were, and saying, I've had enough of this. I've just had enough. Please, may I come home? And I knew that was my home, was not here. My home was in the heavens then, as it was to me. And I heard very clearly a voice say to me, yes, of course you can. You can come home anytime you like. And, that really touched me at that moment.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, the sooner the better, and they just asked me to explain why I felt this way. And I couldn't take any more of what was happening to me. And I couldn't see a life beyond this. I really couldn't.
Yeah.
And so they said back to me here, well, of course, this is your choice. But what if I promise you I will get you out of this? Not today, and not tomorrow, but sometime soon. Will you stay then? So, to cut a long story short, yes, I said, yes, of course. I will get out of it. Yes, I will not come home as long as you get me out of this. And it was, I'll always remember it, it was 3 years later, I was 15, and something happened. And when somebody says to you, it really is the last straw?
Yes.
Well, that was that moment. And I felt it, something snapped within me. Something was very different. And I felt this courage, as it were, or this power build within me, that I just turned round and said, I'm leaving and I'm not coming back. And I turned and I walked out the door. To my mother's shock, I think she just didn't do anything. There was nothing she could do. She was just absolutely shocked. And so for 2 days I walked the streets, and then I had the presence of mind to go somewhere and say, look, I've left home. Don't ask me what's happened. I'm not going back. And they said, okay. And I was taken into a care home, finished school, and a year later I was living on my own and found my way to the Spiritualist Church.
Yeah, it's an incredibly brave thing to do, isn't it? And I could understand from spirit points of view as well, needing to wait till you were of an age where you had more understanding, but also the capability. And when you think of children nowadays that leave home, and unfortunately, many hundreds just disappear. It's a very brave decision at that age, because I think whilst we have some understanding, and we understand things may not be great at home, I don't think we understand on the level that once we've left the protection of home, so many other things could happen. And I know from my own childhood, times were much freer then. There wasn't, or certainly didn't appear to be, as much danger. But it's still a very, very brave thing to do, isn't it?
Yes, I suppose it is, but at that time you don't see it as that. And I just believed in the power, that I was going to be protected. I mean, nowadays it's reported more freely and more widely. So yes,
Absolutely.
in those days I'm sure it was there, but it wasn't reported as much. So I can understand that, but it was, for me, it was a matter of survival.
Yeah. And as I say, I think people that have had difficult lives can certainly understand that, in our own way, the mechanics of what would drive us to do that. So tell us about the Spiritualist Church. So how did you physically find yourself there, and what happened at that point?
I was actually on a bus at the time, and the upstairs, and I think I'd gone into a sort of like a semi-sleep, with the motion of the bus, because it was a long journey. And again, I heard a voice just shout at me, "Time to get off! Time to get off! Time to get off!" So you jump up, don't you? Not fully awake, and just pelted down the stairs and off the bus. And by the time I gathered my wits about me, I suddenly realised that this was not my stop. My stop was two more stops further along.
Yeah.
But as it were, I was stood outside the Spiritualist Church, Blackpool Spiritualist Church. It was right outside. The bus stop was right outside.
Yeah.
And it was a Wednesday afternoon. And this voice said again to me, "We would like you to go into the church." So I just looked and I said, "But the doors are locked. There's nobody in, it's closed." And it said, "No, look to the left. There are some steps. You need to go down those steps and go through the door." So I didn't question it, just went straight down the steps, opened this door, and to my shock and horror, there was a service already in progress. It was a Wednesday afternoon one. So all eyes turned on to me. And without so much hesitation, the medium looked up to me and said directly at me, "I've been waiting for you. Please take a seat at the back. And when we've finished, please join me for a cup of tea. I would like to talk to you."
Oh, fantastic. I think if it's anything that really confirms to us that we're needed, and that we can be of service, and that we are placed in exactly the right position, it's something like that. I know from my own experiences of seeing spirit since I was 2, I'd got to a point in life where I was getting nudged by spirit. I was in a full-time job and I had been there for many, many years. And my reaction was, if I'm going to do this, I need proof. And I need absolute proof. I don't need something wishy-washy or anything like that. And this sort of went backwards and forwards for a time. And I made it very clear to Spirit that unless I got 100% proof, and I was starting to get proof there, but still thinking, okay, but is that me and my influence in it, that kind of thing. And then I went to sleep that night, and I had a dream, and in the dream, never heard of him before. Robert Brown came to me in a dream, and he said to me, this was the just before the mid-80s, and he said to me, you need to go to the SAGB, and you need to speak to a medium called Jerry March, and you need to join her circle. And Spirit woke me up, because if I need to remember a dream, I tend to get woken just before it finishes. And I had this dream, and it really struck me. So I thought about it for a few days, and I then thought, well, what is the SAGB? Never heard of it. Looked it up. It existed. So that was like a moment of intrigue. I'm thinking, okay, I'm getting something, I'm getting a real pointer, because it can be a bit thick. And left it a few days, got the courage, rang them up. Do you have a medium there called Jerry March? Yes, we do. So that was a okay moment, and I said I'd like to come down and join her circle if I could, and it started from there. So I tested Spirit quite heavily, but being wanting absolute positive proof, and this was at the end of a string of it, and that happened for me. But I think, a lot of the time we doubt, or I certainly did, and think, right, well, I don't need something wishy-washy, I want something else. But it seems to me that that conversation that you had with the medium before, during the service and before you had a good talk, to me, that is fantastic proof that you are certainly at that point in the right place at the right time. And there's nothing unequivocal about it, nothing wishy-washy. It's just like, you're here. So I think that's absolutely fantastic.
I think such is the power of Spirit. We both know that if they want you in a place and they want you badly enough, they will move heaven and earth to make it. Yeah. I also think in your case, you probably had it harder than I did, because you were older than I. I had no cause to believe what was happening to me wasn't true. There was nothing there. There was no doubt, because, as a child, you just accept. And what a pity we lose that as we grow older.
Absolutely. I mean, I was brought up a Catholic, which in a sense was confusing for me, because I could hear. It was in the days when you had 2-hour services, and there was no kids service at all. So you were taken along, you had to sit quiet, etc. And you were literally, well, certainly in my case, you were literally talked at for 2 hours, and then you went home. But the interesting thing for me was I was comparing what they were teaching me at church with what Spirit was showing me. And there were similes, of course, a few of them, but there were so many gaps. So I found church interesting in that way. But it's and I was glad for the experience, because it showed me that, there's a gem of truth in what they say, and man does as man's always done. It gets something, he thinks this is a great idea. There's a huge, certainly from the Rome, in the days of the Romans, this huge understanding of how powerful this thing is, and they convert it to what they want, and they make it a tool which helps to rule. So I could understand why certain things have been changed. I could also understand that there were quite a few priests who were not perhaps mediums as such, though some were, but highly attuned, very psychic, and that was also something that I found so interesting. So I had a kind of comparison in that way of what was going on and the differences between the two, and some of the again, some of the similarities between the two. So I found that very interesting.
You come from all walks of life and from all kind of religions, pull some sorts of grains of truth within it, because I love looking at different religions and seeing the core value and the truth and what I can actually pull from that.
Absolutely.
I, like yourself, was Catholic, and now here's an interesting thing for you. Talk about being preordained. My mother was a naughty girl. She got pregnant when she was 15, and in the 60s, that was not the done thing.
Very true.
Her father was Southern Irish, mother was English. They were a very middle-class family on that side, and worst of all, she went with somebody who was, shall we say, not from the right side of the tracks. And so, she was sent away to a Catholic convent in Bristol, to where I was born. So, that connection's there. And I have in my possession a photograph of me as a baby, newborn baby, laid on one of their slabs, altars, or whatever you want to call it, with the archway being light coming down. Right next to my head is a big orb. And we had that orb blown up, and within the orb, you can see a full nun's face.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
So, so that really has to tell you something.
Yes, yeah. Oh, I think that's fantastic. Something that always interests me is the fact that I was going to say the word intrude, that spirit sort of connects and contacts us, and is so very visible sometimes when we look back, but always there, always present. And I think it's a great comfort to people to see these things.
It certainly is. And I'm sometimes of the mind, do they contact us or do we contact them?
Yes, yes. I know what you mean, and I think with constant, as it was with you, constant contact with spirit, it does become a normal thing, and normal for us certainly, although quite unusual to other people. And sometimes you have people ring up, and they say, "Oh, I think that would be scary." Because we talk about different things, and I understand that they're starting to see things, and they go, "Oh, I think it's a bit frightening," and that. But it's wonderful, I think, to have that kind of contact, and for spirit to be. Sometimes they're very forceful in people's lives, even early on, and say, "Here I am." You have work to do, and there are other things. We're just going to go into a break, and we'll be back with Chris in a moment. So we'll see you after this.
This is the voice of spirit, your connection to the other side.
To understand something spiritually, you must experience it. And in order to experience it, you have to experience it in your imagination.
Explore with us by calling 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Everything that now exists was once imagined. Therefore, everything that is going to exist must first be imagined.
Back with your guide to spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Leo Bonomo.
After these brief words from our sponsors. Toxins are everywhere, from the air we breathe to the food we eat and the water we drink. In a world where 80,000 known toxins and heavy metals threaten our very existence, how are you going to protect yourself and your loved ones? Introducing Pure Body Extra Strength, the world's first colloidal zeolite that helps trap and remove toxins as well as heavy metals from your body that are messing with your memory, clarity, sleep, and focus. Don't just take our word for it or the testimonials from our thousands of happy customers. Check out the hundreds of articles and case studies on the National Institute of Health website proving zeolite's powerful ability to remove toxins. For a limited time, listeners to KCOR will receive 10% off their first order. To get started, go to trypurebody.com and enter promo code RADIO10. Again, that's trypurebody.com. Toxic junk is all around us, but now you can take back control of your health and protect yourself by detoxing with Pure Body Extra Strength. You'll be on your way to sleeping better, thinking more clearly, and feeling more energetic. Go to trypurebody.com right now and get started today.
Monday nights are about to become hauntingly good, as Reverend Sean Whittington possesses the airwaves with Vegas Supernatural. Tune in every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern for Vegas Supernatural, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. There's a war raging between good and evil. The question is, which side are you fighting on? Tune in Monday nights as Reverend Sean Whittington sets the new standard for paranormal radio with some of the most influential personalities in the world today. Vegas Supernatural, hosted by Reverend Sean Whittington, every Monday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The one show even the devil doesn't want you to hear.
Great.
The all-new KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Great. Make a note of it. It's great.
Thursday nights are about to get weird on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Join hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz as they go exploring the bizarre. Jet across the cosmos with two of the most electrifying paranormal researchers in the known universe. Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. Exploring the bizarre takes you deep within the world of the unexplained. UFOs, ghosts, lost worlds, cryptozoology. It's time to take back the night with hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz. Exploring the bizarre. Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, only on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Welcome back to the Voice of Spirit, your connection to the other side.
There's no accidents in this universe. We all show up here with a purpose. There's an intelligence that is a part of everything and everyone, and all of us are connected to it.
Connect with us on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Even better, join us live in our chat room at kcorradio.com. To get a free reading during the show, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Worldwide callers, use Skype name KCOR Radio. And now, inspirational clairvoyant medium, psychic, and your connection to the spirit, the host of the Voice of Spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Hi, very, very warm welcome back. We're talking to Chris Jacobs, a very well-established medium, lovely man, and we've been talking a little bit about his life. And if you've just joined us and you've missed the first segment, of course you can get us in the archive. If you would like a reading from either myself or Chris, and or just want to ask some questions, maybe about development, whatever it might be, then please do call. You can get us on that number that's mentioned, and you can get us on Skype on KCOR Radio. You can get us in the studio and through Twitter. So if you have any questions at all, then we'd be very pleased to answer them. So welcome back, Chris. I noticed from your site that there isn't a book, and I think most mediums at some point or another do something like that, and mine was in writing Summerland. It came about. Again, I say, you know, sometimes spirit hide lots from us, don't they? And I used to write poetry and things, and it would just be completely inspired and scribbled down. So when it came to writing Summerland, believe it or not, I wasn't really aware that it was a book. This stuff was coming through. Sometimes it would be paragraphs, sometimes it would be pages of stuff. And I wrote it all down. Well, my hand was guided, but it was all written down and kind of shoved away in a drawer. And it was when I became aware that actually the last segment had just been done that I thought, actually, this is a book. And because it was all mixed in a drawer, I started to get bits out, and then realised actually it was a book that was needing to be published. Have you had any experiences of automatic writing or any push so far to write something?
Well, I haven't actually written a book yet, but I do understand where you're coming from, because I've been told it time and time again, and a good friend wants me to get me started on it. And I've said yes, preliminarily, but I've yet to get started. You know, what do? You talk about your life, and, you know, I always think it's nothing special. I mean, yes, I've had a turbulent life to start with, and yeah, carried on right into my adult life, and, you know, now in my 50s, and it's you know, it's taken all those years to get that sorted in that way. But you know what, Leo, I don't regret 1 minute of it. You know, all the hardness of the life, and I think maybe one day I should write that and go ahead with it.
Yes, I think it's something that you should, and I know if it's something that's partly or wholly biographical, that I suppose it's like a good meal, you know, a good roast. You cook it slowly, it tenderizes, and I think we find sometimes, you know, we look back at things, and I know in my life, that I've looked back on things and thought, you know, I've still had some anger issues with what's gone on, and still thought, you know, I should have dealt with this differently, or, you know, why did that happen? And as you mature, you can see Spirit's hand behind it, and you can see it in a different way. So I can understand that there's needing to be a gap there. That we let it mature in that sense, and I think it's a good thing. You know, it's and of course there's still a lot of life left to live, isn't there?
Well, certainly hoping so.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of, and I've said this many times. You know, I want to get the job done to the best of my ability and go home as soon as possible. Or as my ex-wife used to say, you know, it's hard to kill a bad thing. So I think I'm still here for quite a while yet. But it was strange. I think it was about 7 or 8 years ago. It was actually somebody sort of connected to writing and that, and I used to read for them a lot. And they said, why don't you do an autobiography? And I'm thinking, I think then I must have been about 56, 57. And I'm thinking, autobiography, I think that's a bit early. But I started it, and it's like some of my writing, it's stop, start. And then it's like just waiting for the new chapter. But so that hit me quite hard. So I don't think that's going to get finished anytime soon. But it is interesting. Tell us how you first started doing services, because years ago it was a very different thing, wasn't it? You know, there was a long run up. I think the usual thing was you weren't really allowed near a platform for 5 years, 6 years, or whatever. How did you find that? Because having had such a I suppose strong underlined introduction to spiritualism as it is, how long did it take you before you started doing your own services?
Oh, it's quite some time. I think I had a very good introduction to it through what I already said, but also then I started going to the open circle, and it came very clear and very apparent straight away there was something there, and it was noted by the president, who was then Betty Wakeland. And then I was directed, I ended up giving a message to this lady, and she said nothing all the way through, smiled at me, and then when it had finished, she came over to me and said, I'm going to start a circle for you, and you can start sitting. Now this lady was, let me tell you, she was no pushover. She really was a staunch spiritualist, an advocate for it, really a kind of tough character. She was an ex-matron, so you can imagine the type of person she would be, and kind of took me under the wing there. And as I said, I met through her and through the church, I met Gordon and I met Glenn, and they kind of directed her at first in which way to go with me. Yeah. And then this all started in Blackpool Church, and then I moved over to St Anne's Church, which is the next town over. Yeah. And I somehow, I don't know whether I joined or I was seconded onto the committee of the local SNU, as it was then, at the age of 18, and met some absolutely wonderful people, and some really wonderful mediums of that time, Mary Duffy and all of these kind of people, and and I was very fortunate, and it was a time, it's a time when I loved, because a service was a service, all right. And I know today a lot of people don't want certain elements of it. The philosophy that was given at those times, and the speaker's address, and then the medium just had to do the medium's connection, and it was a beautiful thing, and I can always remember feeling very inspired by it all, and but not actually recognizing what a fortunate position I was really in at that time. So yes, I think I was given my first opportunity when I was about 23, 24 to get up onto a platform. Shall we say, I'm going to say opportunity, but I think I was coerced. But, to get up there, and I started, so many with psychometry at that time, and then went on to do that. I wasn't doing full bookings of churches, because obviously I had a life as well, and had to do that. But when I really came into doing proper services and doing that was, in my 40s, really, I think.
Yeah. I remember I was still training at the SAGB, and I'd been there, I think about 8 years at that point, and I'd gone to a church which was not too far from me. It was about half hour's drive, and Spirit said, I went there, and let me get this the right way round. Spirit approached me during sleep and said, go to this church. And I knew it quite well. I'd been there a few times. And they said, you need to go next week because the medium's not going to turn up. So, and they just left it as plain as that. So, you know the saying, curiosity killed the cat. So I thought, well, I will go along. It's a nice little church. And I went along. And I'm sitting in the audience. And the chairperson came up and said, unfortunately, the medium's not been able to make it today. So I'm thinking, oh, that's interesting. So she said, are there any mediums in the audience? And Spirit pushed my hand up. And I was as surprised as anybody. And she said, oh, you're a medium. Would you like to take the service? And I heard myself saying yes. And walking, up to the platform thinking, okay. It went, I was told, really well. So that was my first real introduction to doing platform services. And it's funny, because Spirit know exactly how we work, don't they? Exactly how we think. And I thought, if you give me a little if I tell him that they're not turning up and you'll be doing the service, you won't turn up because this is your first one, isn't it? So they just kind of gave me that little teaser of they're not turning up. So it was more out of curiosity of, was that right? Even at that age, thinking, oh, that'd be interesting. So they kind of suckered me into it in a very nice way.
Yeah, but it's quite right. They do that. They do present you the opportunity. But in my day, when because I'm not too much. I'm of the same age group of you, near enough. But in those days, we were not allowed near. When I was doing it, we weren't allowed anywhere near the rostrum. And it was, when you take into consider when I was sitting in the circle time, it would have been about 7-8 years, even up to the 24 to do it. But I always remember Leo saying, hell will freeze over before I get on that. I had no wish or inclination ever to do that. If you'd have known me then, and I'm still kind of the same in a way, that I'm a shy person, and I don't, not comfortable. I was never comfortable with huge groups of people. I'm with age, but you can understand, and I don't understand nowadays why everybody's so in a rush to get on there, because as much as it can give you a desire to go on, so destroy you.
Yes. I think the movement's quite different today, and I think part of the reason that people just think, they go and they sit for 10 weeks, 20 weeks, and they think, I'm going to do that. I think part of the reason for that is that there is a different kind of confidence nowadays. But it's that old Andy Warhol thing of everybody will have, 15 minutes of fame. And I think society's changed an awful lot. You've got reality shows, which to me, I abhor them because people are becoming famous just for being famous. And so there's that kind of push that looks okay. I can do that. And actually, that old chestnut, mediums make loads of money. They tour the world, they do this, they do that. And so I think that there's a very different push to get on platform and, in speech marks, be discovered. So I think that there's a very different element that's pushing that nowadays, which I think because the access is there, you can do a short course and then you can do podcasts, and it's so open. I think probably the way that I would put it best is there isn't that university of life. There isn't the hard work. There isn't the years of spending money, of training, of attending this, of buying these books, of doing that, which I don't think that's true for everyone, but I certainly think it's true of a few, that it's like, that's okay, that'll make money. and it's easy work. There are all the false lures there of that, which I think got pushed out of us, when we were there, as you say, 5 or 6 years, sometimes more, of you're not getting near the platform until you're ready. I think a lot of that has gone. So there's a strange twist to it, of course, because spiritualism and mediumship and the supernatural is at an all-time high now. I mean, there are dozens and dozens of shows that kind of precipitate this. And I think, in a sense, it's good because the awareness is there for people, and then they're not afraid to talk about their own experiences. But what gets me a little bit is it tends to be on the dark side, because that's what attracts people first of all.
Yeah, I quite agree. It's just not the commitment anymore, and everything's so instant now that why should that not fall under it? But can I just say, with this medium, mediums make a lot of money. I think that one passed me by.
Me too. To be honest with you, I don't know of any. I know Colin Fry, bless him, and great medium, and he did these shows and he did those shows and that, and he filled theatres and that. But Colin, bless him, never made much money. Unfortunately, the TV studios and those, they took the money. So even someone at his position didn't make a lot of money. So yeah, it's one of those myths that's propounded, isn't it? Like, if you're on TV, if you're on radio, if you're anywhere near the public eye, you're making money. And it's not true. Well, apart from these reality personalities, they kind of I really don't know how it works. They're obviously looking for a certain type of person that is comfortable in front of the camera, can go into character. So mostly what we see isn't them anyway. And they just go, right, we're going to invite you onto the Big Brother show, make it worth our while you being on. And of course, they do all crazy things. And then somebody signs them up and says, actually, we can make a show around you. And they literally make millions. It's a strange world we live in.
It is. I mean, the mediums of the past, not a lot of people know that they all held down jobs as well as working as mediums. And they weren't making the money from the mediumship. Some of them, some of the well-known ones all had businesses, on which to fall back on, which they built up. And that's still true of a few today. So, it's not about making money. As, what greater religion is there, and what greater aspect can you show to spirit than being of service? And that means touching the heart and the soul of somebody who really, really needs it, and leading them to their own conclusion. I think that's what it's about, and we've lost that.
Yeah, we have. I mean, the commitment to service. This is one of the things that kind of gets me with skeptics, because they get paid very, very well. If you're looking at people like Randy, they're he's stepped back a lot now, but they're getting paid $100,000 a year just to sit and be skeptical and have hours and hours of footage to pick out 3 or 4 bits that don't fit and go, look, fake. So they make a lot of money out of it. It's sometimes very easy to pick something apart, because we are all human, and we may mix something up, and, they'll focus on that. But they talk about how much money we supposedly make while they're making good money. But they don't understand the commitment, the years of training, the bus fares. I lived about 45 minutes or so away from Belgrave Square at that time. So it was finish work, jump in the car, get there. So you're paying petrol, you're paying parking, you're paying for the circle. you're buying books and that, and it works out once you start to add it up, it works out an awful lot of money for perhaps, because the competition was much stronger then, a chance to go and do this, service in churches and that kind of thing. So it's, again, the whole image of that has changed, hasn't it? A lot.
It certainly has. I mean, I quite agree with you. I mean, to this day, I don't charge churches, especially those are local to me. And if I have to travel, it literally is petrol money, because you're traveling to, a straight drive, 2.5, 3 hours sometimes, just one way to get there, to be of service. And to me, there's no better glory than that, in a way, that you can go and you may just touch that one person who really needs it, and that is what makes it worthwhile, because we're all human, Leo, and we all need the touch of somebody, and we all need something to believe in.
Absolutely. And I think it was Silver Birch that said, if you can help one person in life, then your life is worthwhile, which is, and I think people like yourself and myself and lots of other mediums out there, I think we're privileged to help more than one, and so it's a great thing. I don't think there's any better reward, certainly where you've got somebody that may be slightly skeptical and see that light in their eyes where it suddenly falls into place. It's gratifying, not from an ego point of view, but it's kind of welcome to the real world, and it's a wonderful thing.
It's nothing better than when you for me, I can recall one experience of reconnecting a mother with her son and seeing the light in her eyes. For me, that was, what a reward could I have for that, to see that. Not that what I'd done for her, but what she'd done for me.
Absolutely. When there's that flicker of recognition and that literal, oh my God moment, something that we've been privileged to experience most of our lives, when that penny falls into place, it's a wonderful thing. We've got a minute or so to go before the break. So after the break, I'd like to ask about Gordon Higginson, Glyn Edwards, maybe Spatilla. I was at the SOGB with her, and we'll talk about that. So we're going into a break, and we'll be straight back after this.
You've been listening to Leo Bonomo, the host of The Voice of Spirit. Live every Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. For more information on the show, guests, and host of The Voice of Spirit, or to book a private reading, please visit leo-bonomo.com. That's leo-bonomo.com. Your connection to the other side is just a phone call away. The Voice of Spirit.
It is amazing, is it not?
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51. Wait, that doesn't exist. This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
In the deep recesses of one's mind, there is a voice, a guiding light through the darkness, a connection to the other side.
You're ready to wake up, you're going to wake up. And if you're not ready, you're going to stay pretending that you're just poor little me.
Pathway to spiritual that echoes with enlightenment. The Voice of Spirit.
The Voice of Spirit.
You are a function of this total galaxy, bounded by the Milky Way, and that furthermore, this galaxy is a function of all other galaxies.
Your journey starts here and now. With your host and connection to spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Very warm welcome back. If you do want to support the show, you can make a donation. Any kind of donation is welcome. It doesn't matter whether it's $1, a token, that's fine. And you can find us on KCOR. If you go through to the archives, you can find the show and you can make a donation there. Don't forget also to have a look at Summerland, the book. You can find that on Amazon. There's also a book of thoughts there, which is thoughts and expressions of spirit, and you can find that on Amazon as well. So we're with Chris Jacobs, a wonderful gentleman, and hi and welcome back, Chris.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
It's a real privilege. We've got a regular caller on the line now, and it's Nell. And hi, Nell. How are you?
Evening, Leo. Evening, Chris.
Good evening.
Good evening to you, honey.
Leo, wait for you here to this one.
Yes.
That picture site with trees. Guess whose website it's on? Chris's.
Ah, fantastic.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's obviously an omen. That's good. Would you like to let Chris on it and tell him what it was about? What we
I've been meditating for the last week, and I keep seeing a picture on your website.
Oh, right. Oh, that's what a strange coincidence. Not.
I didn't realise until I looked at your website today and saw the picture and went, oh, sugar.
Well, it's like what we were discussing, wasn't it, Nell, that, you know, sometimes in not so gentle ways, but Spirit have a very kind of forceful, gentle way of saying, sit up, take notice, or, you know, take that route, do this or do that. So there's obviously...
So I have to phone in for a reading from Chris tonight.
Fantastic. Yeah, you know, they have all kinds of ways of gently pushing us in the right direction. Fantastic. Off you go, Chris.
Okay. Good evening.
Hang on, wait a minute, 2 seconds. My dog's going to start barking.
You know, we have another guest, Chris, and when her grandmother comes through, the dog in the background always starts doing that. So I think that's a good sign, actually.
Okay, right, on you go.
Okay. Good evening now.
Evening, Chris. Try again.
It's a pleasure to speak to you here. As I'm linking in here to you now, I'm very, very much aware that you must have you have a certain interest, obviously, in things of a spiritual nature. But I also feel as though very much along the holistic side as well. And would you understand healing with that?
I'm an SNU healer.
You are a healer. Excellent.
Yes.
Just I can really feel those vibrations there. And I also want to say, would you understand within the family? I feel like there's a connection to spiritual nature going back. Would that make sense to you?
You mean Grandpa William?
I have no idea. I just know it's in the family. You know, that there is a connection to the spirit, to things of spiritual nature.
I have a great grandfather who comes through regularly, doesn't he, Leo?
He does, yes, he does. And he can quite often be funny as well. Okay. In a good sense, I mean, Chris. Yeah. It just struck me the other way then.
Would you also understand now a gentleman in uniform, please, military?
That could be my birth father.
Right, okay. Because I do feel I've got a gentleman with me in the military coming forward here, and just wanting this reconnection with you. And I do feel that would you understand this man? I really didn't. Would you understand that your father was? I don't feel he was present in your life an awful lot. Would that make sense to you?
My birth mother told him she was pregnant, and he took off and went bye-bye.
Okay.
I don't even know his name.
Okay, that's what would make sense. I just know that I felt that there wasn't present in your life an awful lot there. Okay, but I think it's very nice that he's from this side of life. He wants to make that connection with you. Okay. I also want, would you understand a connection other than this show? Would you understand a connection with America, please?
Past plans?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
I had plans to go to America, but they've been put on hold.
Okay, great. As long as I just got that connection there. And would you understand a past partner also in the spirit world?
Not a partner, but a possible partner.
Okay, I'll accept that because I know there's the partner connection ship there. Okay, and would you understand his passing? There was either something not right with it. There was something that was. It seems mysterious to me. I just feel as though I was going down this road and then all of a sudden it ended.
He committed suicide.
Thank you. That's all right. I should be telling you that one, really. But I know that I was going down this road, and I know that it came to this end, this appropriate end here. There,
the road was actually called the Long Line Road.
Okay, and
so that's probably the connection you're looking at.
All right. Would you understand that all was not well with this man, and had not been so for a long time?
Yeah.
Okay, because I just feel this was on the surface, I feel a nice gentleman, but I felt the depths of him. It was very hard to really get to know him.
I think I got to know some of them.
You got to know some of them. That's okay. Yeah. I don't mind being wrong, but I think with the gentleman here, you got to see behind the mask, okay, but everybody else, I felt, didn't. Would you understand that?
I knew what was going on with his family. Didn't I could see what was going on with him, but his family he wouldn't let his family see.
Okay, so behind the mask, he wouldn't let anybody. It was completely different. He wouldn't let anybody see that. I know here that there was a regret with him because he knows that you tried very hard to try and I don't know whether put things right with him or tried to him to see a different life, but there was just no helping him. Would that make sense?
He was too far down the path he was on.
Yes. Okay. That makes perfect sense to me here. And I'm sure he's been back to you before because I feel so, and I feel as though that was a regret of his here. He knows that I feel that there were plans made between the two of you. Would you understand that?
It was a partnership that could have been.
Yeah,
I just feel timing.
I just feel as though there was definite plans there here for you. And would you understand talking over distance as well, please?
Not quite sure about that one.
Okay, I felt as though there was still communication from a distance, as though he wasn't always right next to you.
Oh, there was messages through a medium not long after he passed.
All right, okay. All right, that's unusual. I've never got it that way before. Okay. Here, there's, I feel as though your pathway has certainly been one of interest and been quite straight, quite varied here to you. But I do feel that, for you, you are on the correct. You are on the correct path. You're doing what you love. All right. Would that make sense?
I'm getting there. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm getting there.
All right. You would understand the love of doing what you're doing now.
Yes.
Okay. And you understand that that plans that you have in in place. It's a kind of time factor. It's waiting for the right moment.
Oh yes, definitely. Spirit,
Okay.
I'm waiting for Spirit to deliver that one.
All right, because I just feel as though it is waiting for the moment to happen for that, because I just feel everything's ready and in place for me here, and it's just waiting till I can actually, I don't know, be free or ready for that moment for you. And it is a new life, I've got to say now. It is a new life, but it's a life that should have happened a long time ago. Would that make sense to you?
Yeah, what I know I'm talking about is it's come close a couple of times, but the circumstances have been such that it hasn't quite been right.
Yes. So I'm aware that it was there a long time ago, and you're very fortunate it's come back round again. But I feel this time, I really do feel that it's not going to bar the way for you. All right. I would also want to say here, you would understand mother in the spirit world as well.
No, maybe a
All
grandmother,
right.
but not a mother.
Okay, just for a moment. I've obviously just killed her off for you here, and would you understand somebody like mother then, please? If grandmother was very much like mother, then that would be her. But it's that motherly feeling that I have.
Oh, my godmother.
Okay, and you would have had to been very close to her. Would that make sense?
Yeah, she passed last year.
Oh, really, you shouldn't have told me that either. But
sorry.
I just feel this closeness there with her, and I know you must have been with her near her ending as well. Would that make sense?
No.
All right. Would you understand talking to her then before?
I hadn't actually spoke to her for about a year before she passed.
Okay, all right, I'll accept that. I know that was talking to her before she passed, but would you understand her withholding something about, I don't know whether it was health?
She played down things quite a lot.
Okay.
She was actually ill than what she was. She played it down quite a lot.
Okay, because I just know there was this withholding, so downplays more, it's kind of the same thing there. And, but I do feel that this was a lady who was, she does feel to me a very generous nature and a loving lady. But I also know that she definitely would not suffer fools.
Oh, no, she didn't. No.
Okay, and if because I just you get this feeling with her that if you were straight with her, she was straight with you.
Yeah, she was.
Okay, and you must have something now that belongs to this lady that'd be quite dear to you.
I was given a piece of her jewellery after she passed.
Thank you, and this would be of great sentiment to you.
It's wrapped up carefully and tucked away.
Okay, because I just know that she lets me know that of this here, and she would it be a ring? Because I'm really playing with my wedding ring here. So would it be a ring?
It was a necklace.
All right. Okay. Would you understand a ring that should have come to you?
No.
Right, okay, maybe I've got that wrong then, but okay, here. Sorry, do you have a ring belonging to another lady, please, in the world of spirit?
Nope. I have another piece. I have a watch belonging to somebody in spirit, but no rings.
No rings. All right. Okay. I'm not going to make a watch fit. You can't make a watch fit into a ring here.
No.
Hey, but will you... Can you ask your mother, please, about a ring belonging to grandmother, please?
You're asking the impossible. My mother doesn't speak to me.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know that. All right. I'm feeling there's a ring here from a lady in the spirit that should be coming to you. That should have been yours. All right. And I'm sorry if your mother doesn't speak to you there. So I don't know one way around that way. Would you, Leo?
No, it's very, very difficult. As you're talking there, Chris, there is a lady now in spirit. She's showing me she's actually in mourning, so I know that she lost her husband. I would say she's around 5'7", 5'8", so fairly tall for a lady. She's slim. The mourning outfit that she's showing me actually looks quite Victorian, so I think there would have been certainly a Victorian attitude with this lady. And Chris is quite right. There's a ring that's been passed down. To me, it looks as though it's a dress ring. So the stone is quite large. It's amethyst quartz or something like that, but it's definitely an amethyst type colour.
Was this one of Janet's rings?
Ah, that's the one. I've got a tick with that immediately that you said that.
It's my mother's mother.
Right. That should have got to you.
My mother's still alive. She'll probably still have the ring.
Right. The reason I laughed, this contact's making me laugh. The reason I laughed is used a lovely old word. He said, well, it's been purloined. Which is a very polite way of putting it's been stolen or misdirected is another word that's been given. So I'm glad we could find that. I'm sure. Oh God, this sounds awful, doesn't it? I was going to say. He said it'll get to you one way or another, and I do feel that we all pass over at some point. So I do think it may find its way to you there, but it was from that lady.
I was actually named after her. My middle name comes from her name.
That's brilliant. Yeah. She describes herself as sometimes being a bit severe. I think she told it how it was, and wasn't, there was no problem in doing that. So I feel. Do you know how she passed? And of course, don't tell me if you do, because I feel very.
I do.
It's very short of breath, and it's almost like something's welling up in the throat. Oh God, what is that? I can taste acid. She's taking it away now. Would you know whether she had? I think she had heart problems, but there's definitely a problem because there's like pressure being pushed out of my lungs coming into my throat, and I can taste acid as well. So there's some sort of reflux going on there. And would that make sense to you too?
She may have had the condition, but it wasn't what took her. It was cancer. Right. She passed with cancer.
Right. Okay. But I do know that condition was quite prevalent. She was a very private person as well. So I think she, her attitude seems to have been, it's me, it's nobody else's business, and that was kind of it. Yeah, fantastic. We've got a few minutes left. I'll hand you back to Chris, but thank you for that, Chris.
Oh, thank you, and thank you, Leo. So yes, there was that grandmother connection with the ring here. But would you have a memory here, Janet, of placing flowers either on a grave or placing flowers in memory of somebody, please?
That's going back to Gavin.
Right, okay. And it's because I'm just aware of these flowers being placed in memory of this person, and and I'm also aware that you were speaking to them as you did this. And is it true to say that there was a little bit of a weepy moment or something with that as well?
It was my way of dealing with him, what had happened for a wee while after he passed. I'd go up and put flowers in his grave and sit and talk to him.
Okay, and would you? I'm glad you just told me, because I was just about to say, was there a bench nearby to sit? Because I just felt like I wanted to sit.
I just sat in the grass.
Okay, all right, because I just wanted to sit there, and he wanted to, to know he was well aware that you were there. He was with you at that, and thanked you very much for the flowers as well for that, and He talks about a life that could have been here, but it wasn't, and he talked about the plans that you'd both made that weren't realized. And I know from that he wants to touch you and say, I'm so sorry, that I ended.
There's nothing to be sorry about, because of him. My life did a 180, and I am where I am just now because of him. So he's a big thank you on my part.
Right. Okay. That's fine. But he was sorry about it. You understand? He was sorry that he didn't fulfill the dreams. Would that make sense to you?
Yeah, but he's nothing to be sorry about. It was what was meant to be was meant to be. So.
Yes, but what he's leading to is that those dreams are now going to be realized.
I know he's with me, so I appreciate him.
To be realized there, so it's just an awful lot of love he wants to leave you with here, and just say, he's still with you. Would you understand anniversary in October, please?
I'd have to look that one up.
Okay, I feel it's a birthday. I feel it's around the 15th, 17th, somewhere around there.
I would need to check.
Okay, I'm well aware now we're coming up to a break, but if you will check that would be absolute great. And, I also want grandfather who wishes to be remembered to you too.
Which one? I've got several.
Oh, God. You're a very complicated lady. Would you understand grandfather, the one he used to either collect pins or badges?
We're just going to have to go into a break. Sorry to interrupt. So now, if you want to hang on, and we'll continue this afterwards, and we're going to a break right now.
This is the voice of spirit, your connection to the other side.
To understand something spiritually, you must experience it. And in order to experience it, you have to experience it in your imagination.
Explore with us by calling 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Everything that now exists was once imagined. Therefore, everything that is going to exist must first be imagined.
Back with your guide to spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Leo Bonomo.
After these brief words from our sponsors.
Your journey from the land of the living to the afterlife starts here. The Weird Tales Radio Show. Thursdays 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Your weekly fix for ghost stories, urban myths, witchcraft, and folklore. Hosted by the sometimes werewolf hunter, Charles Christian. And his co-host, Janie Christian. The Weird Tales Radio Show is an off-the-wall, fabulously atmospheric, and radio magazine formatted show. Rated as one of the UK's most listened to podcasts. If you're a fan of the weird and unusual, then tune in if you dare. Thursdays 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern.
The Weird Tales Radio Show.
The one show that takes your fears of the unknown and spins them into reality. The Weird Tales Radio Show on the KCOR Digital Radio Network, where the weird and the strange come out to play.
Jill, why don't you tell the class what you did this weekend?
Well, my dad and I went in search of some magical minnows and found a zillion of them in the stream from our lookout rock. Then my sister and I escaped from an evil slug king and went back to my super twig fort for safety. Then we told stories till it got dark, and the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Where were you, Jill?
We went to the forest. It's not that far away.
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
You are listening to the all-new KCOR, The Core. KCOR broadcasting from Las Vegas, Nevada to the entire universe.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is your captain. I'd like to welcome you on Jackpot Airlines Flight 1610, service to Lost Wages.
They say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, apparently, they need a reality check done Vegas style.
Vegas, 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 Vegas!
Tune in Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, for Reality Check, hosted by Jessica Johns, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Biggest star in the world, bigger than Britney and Christina put together.
If it's happening on the Vegas Strip, you'll know about it here first.
You are a dirty little fun haver.
Join Jessica Johns as she explores and goes behind the scenes of what's hot and what's not. From the best entertainment Vegas has to offer to national celebrity gossip.
That's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Jessica has her finger on the heartbeat of the city, and she's waiting to share it with you. Reality Check, hosted by Jessica Johns. Wednesday, 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern. She does Vegas right.
Yeah, baby!
If you love them enough to sit through their favorite boy band with them, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Voice of Spirit, your connection to the other side.
There's no accidents in this universe. We all show up here with a purpose. There's an intelligence that is a part of everything and everyone, and all of us are connected to it.
Connect with us on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Even better, join us live in our chat room at kcorradio.com. To get a free reading during the show, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Worldwide callers, use Skype name KCOR Radio. And now, inspirational clairvoyant medium, psychic, and your connection to the spirit, the host of the Voice of Spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Hi, so very, very warm welcome back. We've got a lovely, lovely gentleman and a great medium, Chris Jacobs, with us tonight, and he's given. We were talking in the break, him, myself, and Nell, and he's given her some wonderful evidence. So if you do want to ring in the last segment of the show, we've probably got about 20 minutes. If you want to, then do call in. But very warm welcome back, Chris. You and I know quite a few names from the past, and I think sometimes it's very sad that new people come into the movement and they know the people that are here, but they don't necessarily know some of the people who've been hugely influential in the past, like Gordon Higginson. And I was never blessed to have met him. But you have. So tell us about a few experiences with him and Glyn Edwards and that.
Well, I was, as I mentioned before, I was really quite young when I first met Gordon, and very inspirational speaker. I have to say, I don't think there's anybody quite like him still. He was quite a shy man, really, personally. At times, I know he always used to infuriate me because he knew how to annoy me was to mess my hair up at that time. It wasn't the 80s, I have to admit. Yes, a lovely man. He wasn't. He was a great observer. I always noticed that about him. He was always a great observer of people, and that. And I really do feel that he was one of life's great answer a question with a question, to try and get you to see and you to understand what things were all about. There were many times I'd seen him at the college, and he also introduced me once to a very lovely lady. I don't know if you ever knew of her, the late great Jewish medium Jessie Neeson.
I've heard the name. There's so many of the greats that have passed, isn't there? And I think one of the worries is that who we're going to replace them with. But I have heard the name, yes.
Yeah, and she was another lady, a very fun lady. I had the pleasure of meeting her once, and as an ISM, and I also met Eileen Roberts, and what a frightening lady she was at times. She was a no-nonsense people, but people of this ilk really weren't no-nonsense people. They could see, they knew spirit in and out. They took the time, and put in the effort and the commitment to it, and which I don't know we'll see the like again. There are still one or two out there now, some great mediums, that are around, and and if you can get if you can actually get the privilege of seeing them, then it's certainly well worth it, because I think once they're gone, it's going to be very hard to replace them.
It is. I think it's a very sad time within the movement, because, for decades now, standards in mediumship have been dropping, and I'm writing a book. I was privileged to have sat with Leslie Flint, and I'm writing a book. It's a book of transcriptions, essentially, the amount of effort that people put into understanding their gift and using it and in service for others, has changed. And there's Sir Arthur Conan, not Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Arthur Findlay. He came through in one of the seances, and he talks at that time of being, and this was, I'm not sure when exactly, but it was a good 30 years ago, I think. And he was quite distressed at the way things were going on within the movement generally, and you can hear, you can feel the emotion in the voice rather than hear it. But he does mention the word distressing a few times during that seance. I think it's quite right what you're saying. There's an age of mediums now that are much older, and what's the movement going to do? Once they go. So I think because you teach as well, don't you?
Yes, I teach as well.
Yeah, and I think how can I put this? You can either teach or you can't. Some people think that because they've done 30 years platform work, that they can teach, and I think that there's a certain percentage of them that can pass on experiences, but teaching, and I know that you have this as well, teaching is a unique skill, and they don't necessarily transfer. I've seen some great teachers that were, I wouldn't say the best platform demonstrators, but they knew how to teach, and I've seen it the other way around as well. So those that can teach, I think, should be, because there's a need to reinstall some of the old principles of, you've got to do your time, you've got to do the service.
Yes, certainly. I mean, you have the commitment, and I think what people have lost as well, they've lost the understanding of this spirit communication. We need to understand that that's a miracle. It's a miracle that's taking place before our very eyes and ears, and somehow, we've lost that, and it's kind of, so what? Give me something else, rather than actually listening to what they actually have to say, and trying to mirror that into your life. God never taught anything but to love. Yet we've lost the concept somewhere along the way.
I think we have. I went through a period when I was on the lines, and this lasted for about 4 months, and I was really getting quite depressed about it, because what was happening in that 4 months, people were ringing up, and it was like, when am I going to win the lottery? When am I going to find my twin flame? And it was just really basic questions, and I don't like information, as you know, but they'd come on and they'd say, right, I know all about this, spiritualism and that. I need to know when I'm going to win the lottery, because things are dire. And they were very short calls, because I wouldn't be happy with that, because they're only concentrating on one thing. They're concentrating on the material. The material world, what's in it for me? When's life going to change? And whilst I can understand that those things are important, as you've indicated, they're completely missing the whole point. And I got to a point after 4 months, and I just said to Spirit, if this is the way it's going to be, I'm not doing this. And within a few days it changed, and there was a different quality of person coming on. But it's frustrating, isn't it?
It certainly is. I mean, they really have lost the concept of what life is about. It's about making that difference. If you want change in your life, then you need to be the orchestrator of that change. I hear it many times, well, why isn't God standing in for this, that, and the other? But let's hold on. God didn't start it. So God needs to finish it. It's down to you. You can be the change. What Spirit offers us is to understand that, life does not end. This is a mere blink of the eye, and in that statement, they're freeing us. They're freeing us to live a life that is free from worry, that is free from stress, and to understand that, this greater world that awaits us, and that it just continues, that this death is not a great big fanfare or in pain, and that's all Hollywood.
Absolutely.
It's slipping from one set of clothes to another.
Yeah, and it literally is that simple, isn't it? Because people, I think, again, in being human, and when there's, for example, an accident and somebody's crying in pain, there is that effect, of course, which often the body, there's a kind of anesthesia, an anesthetic that affects the body. So I've learned that if you're fairly seriously hurt, you don't actually feel the pain. And people have this image of passing being painful, it being a complicated process, and again, thanks to religions, you're either going upstairs or downstairs, and there's that kind of concept, there's that fear. And people need to understand that there may be some pain leading up to it, but passing itself isn't painful.
No, it's not. And I've been very gifted because to watch, I lost a sister, and I was present there, and to watch her go through that process, I feel very privileged, because it was, for me, it was a beautiful transition in a way, that she slipped away so quietly, and over that time, and that, to me, in that moment, Leo, really showed me there was life after death. There is God, and there is this beauty that awaits.
Yeah, I had quite a vivid. I only remember things if I'm meant to. So spirit kind of bring me round at that moment, and it sticks. And I was doing a reading for a lady, and whoever was coming through, it was actually my guide that was helping me with this in this particular occasion, and he sensed that she had a great fear of death. And he said something to her which really struck a chord with me and has remained with me ever since. And I'm kind of paraphrasing now, but he said, "Why are you afraid of dying? You're simply passing back through a door through which you entered." And I thought it was a wonderful thing, you know, because we've all lived before, we've all been born before, we've all passed before. But it had quite a profound effect on her because she hadn't thought of it in that way. We fixate, don't we, sometimes? And again, I think it's religion, you know, creating that, literally putting the fear of God into people.
Yes, I kind of totally agree with you there. You know, I think first and foremost, really, you know, we've got to look at this life. You know, let's live this life to the best of our ability. If we can leave a footprint that is of, you know, of kindness, of showing love, of helping one another, you know, what greater service can that be? You don't need to be a great medium to be of service. You don't need to be passing messages here, there, and everywhere. For my mind, some of the greatest spiritual people are doctors, nurses, people of that ilk who show at those moments of real trauma, shine a light on them. You know, how beautiful is that?
Yeah. And again, I think it's wonderful. And you hear more and more now, and there's so much more on the web of doctors coming forward, emergency services of all kinds, just talking about what they've experienced, you know, and you know, it's so many people fear it because they don't understand, but it's a wonderful thing to be transitioning, you know. Have you ever astral projected, Chris, at all?
Yes, when I was very young once, when I was going through all the trauma, I was flying, and I could go as high as I wanted. I went above the clouds, I went everywhere. And I was almost so made aware that when I got to the upper stratosphere, that I was very much aware that if I went any further, I really did think there would be any way back. So I came back, and that was one where, you know, my only kind of experience there in that. But I've had another one where I didn't know where I'd been, but I remember waking up feeling awfully dizzy and feeling like I was still falling. So, you know, still body.
Yeah, because that feeling of falling is very common, isn't it? And it's actually when you're returning to your body, and quite often when we're asleep and we kind of jump and wake up with a start, that's when we've re-entered. I think for me, I was privileged enough to be able to, for the most part, to astral project at will. But the first time that it happened, again, was very significant because having contact with spirit and that reassurance is one thing. But once you've left your body and you can see it there, and you know that you really do exist without it. I think that's a profound moment for most people because the realization kicks in. It is just a shell, you know. It's not really us. It's a vehicle we're using. It's a stunning thing when it happens.
I'm sure it is. I don't think they allow me to do that because they probably know I wouldn't want to come back. But
it's stopped for me too, yeah, because I think for me there's that temptation. You know, I sometimes get this funny sort of cartoon image of them trying to force me back in, and I've got arms and legs either side going, no way, that's not happening.
Yeah, I can concur with that. Well, can I just say, if those people who are listening here, if I was ever offer you a piece of advice when, you know, I have been asked, how do you find spirit? Then my answer is, first find yourself.
Yeah.
Because you are spirit, and you need to understand that. You have a gift that comes from God, that is clothed in a soul, which gives you your individuality, and you need to discover that and understand it. And if you can even understand a small part of that, then you're on a great path.
Yeah. There is that saying from way back, isn't there? Find yourself. And in a sense, it's a very easy thing to say, because we're all here for a reason. We all have flaws, and sometimes I think I don't think I've really completely discovered myself yet. But I know as we look inside, we do find bits we don't like, and we have to deal with them. It's a difficult thing to do, isn't it?
It is, and that's part of the journey. My wife once said something to me that really remained on my mind when we were talking about why we're here, and I always remember it, and I don't know if she remembers it anymore now. But she says, if you come from a place that's all white, how are you ever going to discover what colour is? And that's so true.
It is, yeah.
You come from a place of love. How do you understand or conceptualise its true meaning? And it's very many varied avenues.
Absolutely. I mean, I think in a nutshell, that answers why we're here. Because it's a unique place, isn't it? This earth. I think if you lived life on Earth without making any mistakes, it's still an experience. I'm not saying that, but it is in a sense a complete waste of time, because you've not lived. You've not experienced.
Yes, it is. And if you can put it another way, in another nutshell, we're very fortunate to get here. Think of the many thousands or millions that didn't make it here to experience that tried and didn't get here.
Yeah. There's a lovely lady, Sarah Tyler Waters, and her guide, and we were talking. I used to introduce her to my students, and she'd do a trance demonstration, and the question was asked how many lives that he had, and he'd had in excess of 18,000, and it's just one of those wow moments, because logically, if you start to count back 18,000 lives, we go way past when man was born. But he explained that some of these were very brief, but he learned so much from them. And so there is that aspect of people that are needing to incarnate for the first time, and taking it a small step at a time. But yes, you're right. There are many that need to come here. Whether the Earth can physically support many, I think we're getting fairly close to the limit now, aren't we? They say I think there's near as damn 8 billion of us here, and they've done estimates saying that by the time we reach 9 billion, it's going to be difficult, I think was the phrase, which is probably an understatement.
But life has always been difficult, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
There's a will. I believe in the power of mankind. That when we can come together, we can overcome adversity. We can find a way. But are we willing?
That is the thing, isn't it? Yeah. And as you say, quite correctly, life is very difficult. I mean, we have difficulties in this life. But it's certainly easier to pop down to Marks and Spencer's than, chase a deer for 20 miles, and drag it back and cook it. I think each age has its difficulties. But
my deer hunting days are long gone.
I think at my stage in life, if I could get one, I wouldn't have the strength to drag it back. But there you go. That's life itself, isn't it? Any final words? And something we've forgotten to do. It's been so interesting talking to you. One thing we've forgotten to do is give your website URL where people can find you.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can find me at www.chrisjacobsmedium, all one word, .co.uk. And of course, I'm on Facebook. If you put just Chris Jacobs, there are 2 pages. There's the Clairvoyant Medium and Tutor page, or there's also just Chris Jacobs. And if you've got any questions, please post them. I'll always try and answer them.
That's fantastic, and thank you once again for that lovely reading, Fennell. Any last parting words that you'd like to give?
Yeah, I think just a little bit of philosophy. Never look back, because the road's always closed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can't. In a very real sense, we can't undo the past, can we? I mean, we can apologise for it, but we can't do it.
Choose to relive it, never make a change. We can turn around and say, well, you know what? The next step, I'll have a go.
Absolutely.
What it's all about.
Yeah. Great words of wisdom there. It's been wonderful talking to you, and thank you so much. It's been a privilege to have you on the show, and we'll certainly do this again at some point. My sincere thanks to you. It's been wonderful, and thank you very much for your time.
My privilege, and I'll see you around, no doubt.
Absolutely, yes. We need to try and get, because we're part of the same organisation, aren't we? And try and get some demonstrations going. We've reached the end of the show. Thank you so much, and we'll be back next week. And take care. God bless, and do love each other.
You've been listening to Leo Bonomo, the host of The Voice of Spirit. Live every Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. For more information on the show, guests, and host of The Voice of Spirit, or to book a private reading, please visit leo-bonomo.com. That's leo-bonomo.com. Your connection to the other side is just a phone call away. The Voice of Spirit.
It is amazing, is it not?
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51. Wait, that doesn't exist. This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.